mentioned. Yes, now you have to accept, otherwise it doesn't continue. I'd like to give us a few more moments to acknowledge what's just been spoken and what's only through your little introductions has been arrived within our space here, within our room. For example, that the topic of Holocaust is only through this, for me at least, very tangible and present here as a historical and very personal background. And maybe we just take a few moments to just look at one another and see who's here, and we share these 2 hours in life with one another. Yeah. Thank you. Very touching. I'm touched, at least, to sense you through this, even through this medium. Yeah, and I guess that's already part of what we're doing in the program. Getting together and opening up basically very essentially, very from our hearts, so to speak, and be there with one another with as good as we can with our openness, our vulnerability, our anger, our shame, our whatever comes up when we deal with trauma. And yeah, and what we call the training, witnessing, collective, transgenerational and collective trauma and our responsibility now. That's the name of our program. And and I think it spans the range of actually being confronted and witness trauma, getting involved with it, or realizing how involved we are with it anyways, which we usually look away from. Process what that does with us, clean our inner vessel, as Susanne called it, and at the end also see what's our responsibility in it. What we experience with trauma we encounter, what does that call, what kind of response does that call in us? And that can be completely different for many people. But what we've seen is, and basically it gets worse every year, in my impression at the moment, is that wherever we look at in the world, we look at trauma. We've had it very strongly in the pandemic. We have it full on with the Ukraine war, and in both, and also look at many countries, be it the US, be it Israel and Palestine, be it Africa, be it Europe and Germany. At so many open or subtle conflicts we look at, we can actually see from what we think that there's trauma in action, and that there's old trauma reenacting itself, and that so many things which are happening, and so many cruelties and harmful actions, from smaller things to murder to war, are trauma driven and are indirect or direct inheritances of old traumata. And what we are very convinced of is that if we don't look at what's lying underneath, there won't be any good way to overcome this. And basically the training is a contribution in strengthening us to not only be more resilient in this world, but even more taking trauma, which is there anyways, as something we have to deal with anyways, and by doing it consciously and thoughtfully, and especially in a feeling and sensitive way, it's not only good for us, it's good for everyone out there. And I think the whole program has been basically a result from all our journeys and work in Auschwitz, because what we experienced there with this I don't even find words for it, how to describe that collective trauma. What we've experienced with this huge horror, which has happened there, not only in Auschwitz, but also in Auschwitz, is that if we don't look away and don't follow our first reflex to shut down, or we follow the reflex, we let ourselves shut down emotionally, but then see if we don't walk away but stay there, then it happens that at some stage we open up again. And if then someone's there to share and to get in touch with, and if the relation is happening in these very moments, then actually something begins to move, which we wouldn't have been expected to move before. So the way we witness everything which happens in us while being there teaches us, or has taught us, so many ways to how it is, what's a good way to deal with trauma moments. And the training is in the training we look at it from a wider perspective. Auschwitz is in the center of the training. I will show you the training program in a moment. At the center, there's a journey to Auschwitz, but we want to look at the trauma topic in a bit of a broader way, especially to enable us and to support us to witness or to recognize trauma in our daily lives. Not only look at historical issues, but see how it actually happens all the day. And maybe it becomes clearer when I show the program. I just share my screen. Can you see a timeline now, everyone? Yeah, okay. So maybe I just go through it, and while explaining it out, the content will maybe become clearer. The training is essentially consists out of 3 modules and some calls in between. The first module we call we connect. The second we call we retreat, and the third we call we act. What we've put before is witnessing an empathy taste, we call it. It's actually an introductory workshop, which can be taken online or in presence. There will be two different dates in March for this, especially for people who don't know our work at all, who haven't been in Auschwitz with us so far, or haven't worked with us in any other way. So to get a bit of an introduction into the kind of work. That's sort of not part of the program, but is necessary to take before, but it will be credited then if you, I mean, money-wise, it will be credited if you take part in the training. The actual training starts with the module Witnessing and Empathy Connect. That will be a module in presence in Berlin in May this year. And there is, we will basically also, by going to places in Berlin, which will put us into the topic more, there we will look at how we identify actually that the collective or transgenerational trauma is at place, and how our resources are to actually do this. So in the first module, there will be, apart from that, of course, as a group, we will get together. We will basically work on the tools of witnessing and empathy, on the principles we've developed over the years, how to, and when we encounter trauma, when we are confronted with it, how to actually deal with it and how to process it. That will be part of the first module. Then we have 3 intermediate calls, which will be for processing what's going on between, but also as a preparation for the second module, which we call Witnessing and Empathy Retreat. It starts in Berlin because we take what's happened in Berlin as the place of the main place of the perpetrators, Nazi perpetrators. We will visit relevant places there because we find it important to also look at the perpetrator side in the whole topic of the Holocaust. We want to confront ourselves also with this side, and for that there are very relevant places in Berlin where you can still sort of tap on the energy if you wish. So we will start in Berlin there with the preparation, and then travel together to Auschwitz by train, and then spend 4 days on site in Auschwitz. So that will be a longer module of about a bit more than 1 week. And we have a so-called after call after that, to see what are the effects, or what's going on in people after we have had this intensive time in Auschwitz. Auschwitz will basically be a long time to witness what's there, and to basically apply the tools, if you wish, we've learned before. And that's usually a very intense and moving time there, where we'll be also very dependent on one another as a group. So a big part of the whole trip is that we build a very strong group container, which actually is necessary to enable us to go into deep feelings in the first place, because we have there's a good and senseful, trustful way of being held and being sort of cared for in the group. That's been always the experience so far. And usually, and that's also why we created this module 3, Witnessing and Empathy Act, is that after these experiences, in many people there is an impulse to actually do something with this in their personal lives, because the relevance of the experience for one's own work or one's own being with family and friends, etc., has become so obvious. And then there is, what can you do that now? And that's also something which we like very much, because we all, in a way, have responsibility for our world, our surroundings, and we all can do something. And so there might be, for some people, it might be interesting to research more their family history. That might be actually the impulse coming out of the experience. And for others, it might be good to start a group, or to whatever, develop a workshop, or travel to another place where more has to be researched. So this module 3 is basically to come together and see what, for everyone, for every participant, would be a good way to take the experience, take what we've learned, and then bring it into the world, make further steps in personal life, in family life, in community life, in the work, wherever it's appropriate. This third module will be a hybrid module, so we will meet in presence in Augsburg in the south of Germany, but people who cannot make it are also welcome to come in online. So we will facilitate a hybrid version for that. In the first module, we cannot do this because we want to visit places in Berlin there which are really, really relevant to have a physical experience of. So that's why we chose to have this first module in presence. And then we have, sorry, I forgot to say the dates. Second module will be in October, third in November, and there's closing call where we come together after a while to close it all up, and to also share how the projects we developed in module 3, how they were going. The closing call, I think, will be in January 24. Okay. My team, do you have, maybe I stopped the sharing of the screen. Do you have anything to add? Did I forget something?
It was a good overview.
Okay.